Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche. For this week's topic, I want to cover native plants. What are they and why should we plant them in our landscapes and conserve the ones we have? One of my favorite topics. If you've ever talked to me, I definitely love to share information and encourage other people to use native plants. So native plants are also called indigenous plants, and they have evolved in an area over thousands of years. And as part of that process, they are really well adapted to that area's geology, the soils that have formed, the local hydrology and climate. So we get a lot of benefits from those very well adapted plants. Non-native plants, on the other hand, also known as non-indigenous, exotic, adventive, all those terms mean pretty much the same thing. Those plants have evolved outside of a given area, say on another continent or in a faraway state, and they aren't as well suited for the local site conditions, climate, that sort of thing, or the other flora and fauna in an area. So I just wanted to start with those basic definitions, and now I want to talk a little bit about why native plants are so important, why we should use them in our landscapes, why we should conserve the ones we have. And first I want to start with just promoting our local natural biodiversity. So this point is often sort of one of the last ones mentioned, but I want to highlight it, talk about it first, because I think plants are a really important part of our natural heritage. If we all planted the same handful of plants across the whole world, how boring would that be? So the plants that have evolved in an area, I think, help really define our sense of identity, and we should focus on those. We should celebrate those in our landscapes. Native plants also provide very important wildlife habitat, both in shelter for our wildlife species and providing a food source for them. And as I've studied sort of how do you conserve different wildlife species, it always comes back to the plants and the native vegetation, and do we have the appropriate habitat to continue supporting those species. So from a wildlife perspective, native plants are very important. Native plants also require less of things. They require less fertilizer. If you choose plants that are adapted to your particular soil type, you know, they're good with what the natural nutrient levels are and don't really need supplementation. They require fewer pesticides. They've evolved with the local insect populations and have figured out how to coexist and not succumb to major pests. They also require less water. Again, if you pick the right species, native species for your site conditions, they take a lot less water than it typically needs to keep lawn going, to keep a lot of ornamental plant species going. So less water use is important as well. And native plants help us reduce air pollution. So by planting native plants, maybe taking out some of your lawn, you're doing less mowing, so less emissions into the environment, and plants take up carbon naturally through photosynthesis. So, and they store that carbon in their above ground and especially in their below ground biomass. And plants also, the native plants also improve water quality, and this is really important. They have very deep, extensive root systems, and that helps build soil porosity, lots of microbial health benefits, and really in improving that soil, you get better water infiltration. And to demonstrate that, I wanted to show one of my favorite prairie plant graphics. So for sense of scale, this is big blue stem grass at the ground surface. This is the 5-foot mark and 10-foot mark. So you can see its root system is easily runs 10 feet deep. almost 10 feet on purple coneflower, little blue stem, for example, down to 5 feet deep. So that's what I mean by our native plants really help with stormwater infiltration and soil health. And just as a comparison, I told you I am trying to practice what I preach, and I'm doing a native planting in the front of the store. Here's a clod of what was the sad lawn out front, and you can see not even maybe 4 inches depth on that root system. So really not providing those soil and infiltration benefits that our native plants do. And lastly, native plants will help you save time and money. They're not no maintenance, but they're certainly lower maintenance than trying to keep a lawn going. For example, at the front of our store, we have very sandy soils, south exposure, hot, dry. I'm planning to install a lot of dry sand prairie native plants. I'm really excited to get those established, and those will be better adapted. You won't have to do extra fertilizer or water in the long run. And if you plant a diverse mix of native plants, they really fill in the different ecological niches and will be very sustainable with less weeding. You won't need to mulch long term, those sorts of things. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what native plants were, why we should plant them, because we're about to embark on our next native plant sale. So that's going to start this coming Thursday, June 18th at 10 a.m. And we're going to run it through Saturday, June 27th, in celebration of National Pollinator Week. So I hope you come see us. I would love to talk plants with you and help you pick out the right native plants for your place. Take care.